when I first started in podcasting, I would have not script, but I would have questions, right?
Yeah.
I'd have things laid out, and there was always research involved. And there's always thinking through, oh, well, this is what I want to learn about this individual for myself, for my business, what have you. But it's the conversations, it's the unscripted aspect of life of a podcast that I'm fascinated by. And I'm imagining it's a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I remember watching The Real World, right, on MTV, and
sure.
you're like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, this is not what we see. You know, we can watch game shows and we can get into sports, right? That for the most part, maybe it's unscripted. I don't know, right? There's still questions out there about that. But I remember Larry King talking about one of his favorite things is waking up in the morning, there's a ball game that night, and you don't know who's going to win.
Yeah.
And there was some element of just passion he had about that. I was like, that's really cool. And I like that. And I think that's what you're talking about with your family, what you're talking about with what you do every day. I mean, obviously you see that as well. You kind of glow when you're thinking through those things.
Yeah, 100%. That's the beauty of, I think, working in this industry. It took a toll. There's a bunch of negative stuff about that industry, but I always tell people, I feel like I got to live 1,000 lives because I got to go alongside so many different people, so many subcultures, different aspects of things. And you learn how to go through life or embrace the unscripted nature of life, right?
Yeah.
And anytime you go into a story, going back like what you said with a podcast, right? It's such a limitation. If you went into one with a predetermined outcome of what you thought this was going to be, you're going to leave so much gold on the table, right?
Yeah.
And so to sort of go into it and find the story as it unfolds is always the best, you know? And I think that's what separates all the great documentarians and over the years, the ones who go in. And I think the other interesting thing is the best stories in unscripted or documentaries is when people have gone into it thinking the story was one thing, right? They went into it with intent. You have to start with some nugget, and it turns out to be the total opposite of what you thought. And those always make for some of the best stories I've seen.
Yeah, there was one, I remember early on, I was doing this podcast, and it was a documentary this guy had done about sports cards in the 80s and how they, lost all their value. And it was this whole thing, his family, and it was definitely like his father was going to be involved with it, or his father who wasn't around was going to be involved with it. So he went down this path to really discover why we all got screwed out of our baseball cards because Dunruss overprinted them, right? And the whole thing. And he definitely got to that point. It wasn't about that. It was about his relationship with his dad. And you're just like, at the end of it, you're like, oh, wow. Like, where did that come from? And he said it took a sharp left turn that he never expected it. And it's like, do I even air this? It got to that point of on that fringe of like, is this something I can talk about? And he did. And I'm glad he did. And I know he is as well.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Content Matterz with a Z is our content marketing company that helps entrepreneurs tell their own stories to those who care. And here's the thing. We think every entrepreneur that is willing should have their own content platform. And we want to help make that happen, both by working directly with entrepreneurs and by sharing our own stories, exploring the craft of content marketing. Content Matterz, one piece of content at a time. Learn more at kazcontent.com.